Welcome everyone to Talented Universe. I hope you're all having a great day on this Sunday. On the East Coast, it is 3 p.m. And over in Europe, it is
8 o'clock in sunny Ireland. We got a sunny day in Ireland for once.
Oh wow, that's great. That's a good omen. And
good times.
Yeah, and I would like to welcome my co-host Karen. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks. How you guys? Good?
We're good.
All right.
And today we have Paul Kennedy from House of the Dragon.
Hi,
I'm so excited that he is here today.
I'm excited. That build up, the countdown, and the music and everything, it got me so pumped. I'm ready for this.
Yay! Yeah, my co-host that does co-host with my music stuff, he actually composed that for us. So I was really happy that he did.
Well, he did a great job.
Yeah, it's great.
Like
But
being on the stage, like you hear the overture and the curtains open.
No.
And here we are.
It was epic. I felt like I should put on a cloak or something.
well, that would be appropriate for
Yeah.
I'll get started and then I'll let Karen throw in some fun stuff.
Cool.
How did you get this part? Did you just go in and do a audition for them? I'm sure your agent called you up.
So I got an invitation to self-tape for a project, and a lot of the times these days, whenever it's a high-profile thing, or when it's like a franchise thing or existing IP, the audition will be like under a different name, a code name. So there's a code name for this, which I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah, House of Horrors or something.
Yeah. How did you know?
I can't say.
So anyway, I did the tape, and it was a very quick tape, and I sent it off, and I guess like 6 weeks later, my agent called me. This was during the pandemic, by the way, so like everybody was taping for everything.
Yeah.
And about 6 weeks later, my agent called, and he was like, "It looks like you're going to get this thing." And I said, "What thing?" And he said, "This." And he said the code name, and I was like, "What is it?" And he said, "It's the prequel to Game of Thrones." And I said, "What? Okay." Like, okay. And then a few days later, he called me back and he said, "Yeah, you got it." And I was like, "Wait, no, they don't want me to come back in and meet and do another audition or a recall or anything?" And he said, "No, they love the tape and they think you're the role, and it's an offer for the part." And I was like, "Have they got the right guy here?"
Yeah, are you sure you have the right guy?
It's like me, but yeah, thankfully, yeah, it was, and that's how I got it. It was like it's probably a bit too flippant to just say I did a really great tape. I had auditioned for the casting director a few times before, really great casting director called Kate Rhodes James, and she'd never cast me in anything. But I guess that she must have kept me in mind because she kept seeing me for a few things. And then, I would say she probably advocated on my behalf for this and said, this guy's really good. I've screen tested him for a couple of things and he's never quite got there, but he might be good for this. So I think it was probably something to do with the casting director and the relationship there. So I'm very thankful for that.
Do you think it had, because you were in Game of Thrones too, weren't you? If I remember right.
Very briefly.
But a very small part, yeah.
Very briefly, yes. I played Littlefinger's bodyguard in an episode in season 5, and then a lot of it ended up on the cutting room floor, which I'm fine about. This happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a much smaller part than I would have hoped for. But yeah, And at the time, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, so I didn't really know what I was walking into. So it was only when I watched it a few years later in the run-up to Series 8, I thought I better get on board with this before it ends, and I binged the whole thing. But it was only whenever I watched it and I saw it in the context of the entire run of the show that I was like, okay, that was pretty cool to be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, oh, this is a bit weird all this, horses and sandals and swords and dragons and stuff. I was like, it's I guess I kind of took it for granted because I didn't really know what it was, and I knew it was a big show, but I didn't know how huge it was because it's filmed in Northern Ireland where I live, and we're all just like, all my friends work on the show, all the crew members work on the show, and loads of actors from here get cast in day player roles. So it was just kind of a rite of passage thing. Everybody gets a role in Game of Thrones over the 8 years. I would watch the show and I'd be like, oh, I know that guy. Or, it's like lots of actors from Northern Ireland are in it. But looking back now, it's very cool to say that I was a part of something like that, and even cooler to say, I think there's only maybe me and maybe Jefferson Hall, who plays Tyland, and Jason Lannister. I think we're the only 2 people who have done Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. We certainly were in season 1. I don't know if that's changed now with season 2.
I wanted to ask you because Game of Thrones did shoot a lot in and around the Belfast area, and it seems to maybe have become a bit of a hotspot for Game of Thrones tourists to visit a lot of those places. So now you make it onto the show. Given that pretty much all of your scenes are in the little council, are you shooting in London on the soundstage?
Yeah, we're in the Warner Brothers studios on T Stage. It's really, really cool. So I joined kind of halfway through season 1, whenever there was that time jump. Yeah. So I came in episode 6, I think, and I remember just they took us from our trailers around to T Stage for the first time. You're in the costume and everything, and then you go through the doors of the stage, and they take you through a little corridor, and then the Red Keep is there. The entire castle is just in this aircraft hangar, and you're just looking at it going, oh my God, this is so cool. I kind of geeked out a little bit, and then you're walking through, and there was a huge tapestry hanging with the history of the Targaryens embroidered into it, and just the attention to detail was phenomenal, And I remember kind of one of the other cast members who had been there since episode 1 saw me looking around with my mouth open, and he was like, it's pretty cool, isn't it, dude? And I was like, yeah, it's so cool. So yeah, that's where I spend most of my time, in the small council in King's Landing, and it's kind of, I have my seat, and it's kind of become my little place where I go, and it's my happy place. I'm cool with that.
Let me go to a few questions or comments in the chat room. Arc54 says, good afternoon. I must ask, who or what inspired the story Made in Belfast? I have always loved the complexity of your layering relationships, especially with those dynamics.
Wow.
Heavy question. I know. Yeah.
I was not expecting any questions about Made in Belfast. That's really nice of you to ask that. Who or what inspired it? I guess so. In Made in Belfast, it's the story of a novelist who he's successful. He's from Belfast. He's wrote a novel called Made in Belfast, and it exposes the private life of all his friends, and it kind of makes him a social pariah. So he goes and lives in Paris and lives the high life of a novelist in Paris, and comes back to Belfast, and it's changed city. It's changed from when he left. It's there was a sort of, it's now a post-conflict society. It's a post-peace society. All his friends are willing to forgive. So what he did with his novel was it was an allegory for trying to move on from a seismic event, which was the Troubles. So I was trying to make a movie about the Troubles without actually referencing the Troubles. So that was the inspiration for it. And thankfully, only one person got it. We screened everywhere. We played film festivals all around the world with that film, sorry. And one guy who was a critic in Toronto wrote, this is what the writer and director is trying to do with this, and it's the first post-Troubles movie. And I was like, one guy got it. I'm happy. Just as long as one person saw what I was trying to do, I'm cool. Thanks for the question, by the way. That was really nice.
that makes things interesting. Greg just says, good afternoon from Maine in the United States. So
what is up, Greg? Good afternoon from Belfast in Northern Ireland.
Yeah. And I'll do one. Elizabeth Olivia Cooper asks, very glad you were able to come back to the Seven Kingdoms a second time, but this time to play Jasper.
Listen, I'm very glad too, Elizabeth. I'm really glad to come back, and you know he's such a fun character to play as well. I don't know if you know much about him, but in the novel, there's only like a paragraph about him, so there's not like loads of backstory that I have to go on. And even that paragraph is a little bit ambiguous. You know, they say they call him Ironrod because he rules with, or you know, he's strict about the law, the letter of the law. But then there's another theory in the book as to why he's called Ironrod, and it's a little bit more salacious, and it has something to do with the fact that he has 29 kids by 4 different wives, which is a lot of fun. So you didn't really know. I didn't really know which way to play him when we came in to series 1, and Miguel, one of the showrunners in series 1, came up to me and he was like, "If I've got one note for you in this first scene that you're doing, it's that he is a traditionalist. He doesn't like the fact that there are women on this council, and he's not afraid to show it." So I was like, okay. And then he just got really sassy. I don't know why Ironrod became so sassy and so sarcastic, but that's the way he's, you know, that's the way the words come out of my mouth. It's quite strange, but he's a lot of fun to play. And, you know, sitting around that table with the rest of those small council members who are such brilliant actors. You know, there are times you might think it might get a little bit daunting, but they're so funny and such good company, and they're really, you know, the writing's so good, and the directors are just, they're out of this world, you know. Like it's such a joy to work with them, because I think we maybe had like 5 or 6 different directors this season, and seeing the different ways that they all have of working, and seeing the different ways they have of what really floats their boat in terms of, you know, composing the shot, or, you know, some of them might be really focused on how they compose the shot and the aesthetics of the shot, the aesthetics of the scene. Some of them might be really focused on the nuances of what's going on between the actors, and it's really fun, and it really brings a lot of variety to it. So yeah, thank you for that, Elizabeth. I'm really glad I'm back too.
It has been interesting how much of this show is set in the small council for the blacks and especially for the greens. I think, you know, in Game of Thrones, we were sort of all over the 7 Kingdoms, following sort of the lost children of Ned Stark, and like almost every episode we have a scene in somebody's small council, usually a bunch of men undermining the queen, typically.
I've noticed. Yeah. Do you know what I think? I think audiences have really kind of embraced that sort of scene with, you know, with people politicking in back rooms, especially with something like Succession, which was so successful and was all about the power dynamics between the characters. And I think that that's something that we've kind of built on here. As a viewer, I never see what's going on with the blacks. I rarely see any of them on set, because they're in a completely different unit to us. Sometimes they're away shooting in Wales or Spain, and I'm on T-stage all the time. So for me, watching the blacks scenes, it's so interesting, and seeing the work that those actors are doing, and seeing the similarities, like you pointed out, Karen. It's like, you know, we're undermining the woman in our council, and we're deciding who's the best person to put forward and who's the best person to lead us to glory, and they're doing exactly the same thing. Their table's a bit cooler than ours, isn't it?
It is. They have a cool table.
Their table is dope. Our table's cool, and we got the little balls that we can spin around, and the things, and that's, you know, that's ours of fun on set. But their table is pretty nice.
Yeah, Dragonstone's a great set, for sure. Michael?
Cool.
Yeah, no, I got more questions. Here's another one that's going to tax your memory.
Okay.
Yeah, this is from Art54. As someone who has deeply researched the Titanic, I just wanted to say thank you for helping the story of her engineers and all they did that night to come to the foreground so the world could see them.
What a really nice thing to say. Yeah. So back in, I think the the 100-year anniversary of the Titanic going down was like 2012. So they were making like a lot of Titanic stuff back then. And I was lucky enough to be cast in something called Saving the Titanic, which was the story of the engineers. It just so happened that they cast a bunch of my friends in it as well.
Oh.
So they didn't know this. So we shot that down in a studio called Ardmore down in County Wicklow in Dublin, just south of Dublin, sorry. And it was just a bunch of Irish guys having the crack, pretend like that was such fun to make. And I think that a lot of times with those sort of docudramas, you run the risk of them coming out kind of shonky. Like they're very easy to get wrong. But I think the guys that made that one did a really, really great job, and that was a lot of fun to make. So yeah, I think you're bringing back some memories for me on this. We should do it every Sunday.
That's what we do on this show sometimes. Arc 54 dives deep.
Oh yeah, man.
A lot of stuff.
Very good, very good.
And here's the thing about costuming, which I was going to ask too, but I'll let Greg take credit for this one. We are so impressed with the costumes in House of the Dragon. Do they wear as well as they look on screen?
Greg, they fit like a glove. I mean, the costume team on this are so good at what they do. I remember when I first went in for my costume fitting for season 1, and I tried the costume on, I was just like, this is great. I love it. It looks so cool, and it's, you know, you probably don't see this, but there's like a whole load of like intricate little details sewn into all the costumes, and you know, they all mean something as well. And then this year, because I'm in season 2, we thought Jasper would try and be a little bit more sycophantic towards the Hightower family, so he swapped his overrobe. It was black, but because he doesn't want to be associated with the blacks, he got rid of that, and he now has like a Hightower green outer coat, and that was a nice touch. Yeah, they wear really well. They're great. Although I'll tell you what, see, there's lots of layers to them. So whenever you're shooting in that soundstage on like a really, really hot London summer, they got to bring the fans in and everything, and the water, and keep you hydrated, because there's a lot of layers. But yeah, they're
that was my next question. AC or just fans?
Just fans. So, I mean, the climate over here doesn't really warrant the cost of AC for the full year. So whenever on that 1 week where it's hot, we just break out the fans.
Oh, you know what it would cost to like air condition an airplane hangar? You could have like 3 more dragons in the show for the cost of the air conditioning.
I would say so. So that's why we've got the hand fans. That's it. Cheaper, £1.
Go ahead.
I had recently read an interview that your costume designer gave, I think about a year ago, and she mentioned that, you know, she had wanted the costumes to be a little bit like clothes, like the clothes that people would wear to go to work that day, or to be in, like, the king doesn't sit around in an ermine robe every day, and you know, they're a little more
utilitarian, I guess. Yeah.
So is it comfortable? I mean, aside from the heat, is it heavy? It's
really comfortable. So like, this is going into maybe a bit too much detail, but like the trousers are like, they have, you know, straps on the bottom of them and then straps up here, so they're kind of like dungarees. So you have a t-shirt, and then your trousers go right up here, and then you get the big boots, and then all your outer layers go on over that. So if it gets really hot, they've done a thing where it's like you can just kind of take everything off and just set it to one side. You take the chain off and set everything to one side, and then you're good to go. And then when they call you to set, you start getting dressed, and it takes you about 30 seconds to put everything back on. At the start, it took us ages. We were all in the tents clambering, trying to take ages to put it back on. But now we've got it down to a fine art. We can get dressed and undressed in like 10 seconds flat.
Well, let me ask you one question, because before we went on, we were talking about Village Films.
Sure.
So what did you want to say about Village Films? I want to make sure we talk about that a little bit. Everyone that's watching, we have down here all of Paul's links. I will be putting them on our webpage also at ndbmedia.net. after the show. So if you don't get them here, I will have them, so you can just click them under the Talented Universe videos
Cool.
on our webpage. So that's good. So
very good. Yeah, and like I was telling you before, I'm not very good at the socials. I should really do it a bit more. But yeah, Village is the film company. I started it, years ago to make in Belfast, and we ended up just keeping it going and just making a few things here and there. We've made a couple of movies. There's a movie on Shudder we made called Mandrake, which is very good fun. There's a movie on Netflix that we made called Night Ride, which was one shot. It was 97-minute, one take that we shot during the pandemic in a car in Belfast. We've just made a movie which I wrote and directed, which I'm very proud of, called Dead Man's Money. Or to give it its full title, I've been completely pretentious and given it a Sir title. It's Dead Man's Money, or The Ballad of Henry Henry and the Widow Tweed. And we've just premiered that at Galway Film Festival last week, and it went down really well. I'm really happy with it. We're going to go out on the festival circuit with that in a couple of months' time. Hopefully we're going to premiere it at a festival in the US in the next couple of months. And then we've been invited to another few festivals as well. So I'm very, I was very, very happy to make that, to be given the opportunity to make that at the very end of 2023 when we finished filming season 2. And it's just came out. Well, it's just started its life on the festival circuit now. So yeah, that's when I'm not acting, I'm hustling with my film company, trying to make feature films.
You have spoken in the press over the years about how much you enjoy making films and making some like smaller stories or smaller films, and now you've gone and joined like a global blockbuster, literary and television blockbuster. And I wonder, how that might be changing your life, or maybe it will make it possible for you to get more attention for your smaller films, and not smaller, I shouldn't call them smaller, lesser known.
No, it's fine to call them smaller, because they are, they're not blockbusters. They're not, big studio tent poles. They are little small pieces of art that we're very happy with. And if they get a life out there, that's enough for us. I haven't really thought about how being in Dragon might affect that. I haven't seen any effect of it yet, and I don't know if it will, have an effect. If it does, so much the better. But yeah, being in like a major thing like this, I'll be honest, Karen. There's days where I'm like, I actually don't think it's sunk in yet that I'm part of it. It just seems. It honestly seems a little bit dreamlike sometimes. It's the best job I've ever had. I love going to work in Westeros. It's so cool.
I hope Lord Wylde can live for 2 more seasons. I feel like you never know what crazy Targaryens are going to do.
So do I. I love playing him. I'd love to see, I don't know if he comes back next season or not yet. I don't know anything about that, but yeah, I'd love to see if there's a life beyond season 2.
Well, let us hope so. Let me go to another question that is not about this. What West End or Broadway role would you like most to perform if you had the chance?
That's a really good question. Probably, I'm going to be really boring here. Probably John Proctor in The Crucible. I'd love a crack at that play.
Really?
But here's the thing. I haven't done a play in like 7 years because I got hit with the stage fright and I just can't do it anymore.
Really?
Yeah, I did. I used to do plays all the time. I love the theater. And then for a few years, it just got to the point where I'm fine in my head, but when I walk on stage, my body is just in agony. And all I want to do is get off stage. And I know the lines and I'm fine with the lines, but I'm just, I don't know. I can't describe it. It's just like, it's a feeling in the pit of my stomach where I'm like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. I need to be out of here.
Do you think it's because it's live, or do you feel that way when you're doing House of the Dragon?
I don't feel that way when I'm doing camera work at all. I'm completely comfortable doing camera work. I could do that all day. If you make a mistake, you're fine because you can just keep going and they don't use the take with the mistake. but it might have something to do with the live aspect of it. But yeah, I did a big long run of a play for the Abbey Theatre in Dublin in 2016, and that was really bad for me. I was just like, I enjoyed the play a lot, but the stage fright was terrible. So I had to take a break for like 6 months, and then I got offered to play a one-man show in London, and I'd never performed in London before, and I thought, well, I want to do something on the London stage. So it was a short run. It was only 3 weeks, and I thought, okay, I'll have a go at it. And the stage fright was crippling. So I just thought, oh, I can't do this anymore. So, you know, maybe someday I'll get over it, and I'll maybe be able to go back to the stage. But I think that's over for me.
I got a phone.
That's me calling you.
Yeah,
just checking if your phone was on, Carl.
Oh, I understand that.
I told you I'm in my dad's house. He's 92 and he has a landline. So
I still do too, Karen. So
yeah, I was gonna say, Paul, if Simone Biles can get back on that balance beam, then we are gonna see you back on the stage someday.
I would love that. I would genuinely love to get back on the stage someday. So hopefully my stage fright plays ball, and I can get over it at some point.
Do you think it might help that you're doing the camera work now, and that might get you a little bit more? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, the scary thing is I won't know until I try it, and
yeah,
I just, speaking in public is really. It was really difficult for me. Like, even I had to introduce the film at the film festival I was telling you about last week, and even getting up and speaking to the audience at the start of that was just like, oh god, the nerves, and it was too much. But I'm fine in front of a camera playing a guy who has 29 kids by 4 different wives. Go figure.
And has on a cool outfit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's the best part. Here's something else that, talking about your, loved you as Father Donovan in Sins of a Werewolf.
Thank you so much. So, that was really good fun. That was a really good writer-director from Dublin called David Cranfield made that movie, and I think he wants to make it into a feature film. It was a really, really fun shoot, running around the fields of Wicklow pretending to be a werewolf. You don't get that in your career very often. So, and funnily enough, we shot it on Halloween, actual Halloween day. So that bodes well for it. And it played well at festivals, and I think it won a few awards here and there. I think I got nominated for an award, and I was up against people like Lance Henriksen at some film festivals. So I was like, that's good enough for me. If I'm in the same category as Lance Henriksen, that's good enough for me.
Just telling our audience we have a few more minutes. So if you do have a question, please shoot it out in the chat room right now. Karen, did you have any final thoughts? Or
I was going to ask about Mandrake. I'm too scared to watch Mandrake. I'm a bit of a wimp when it comes to horror. And, when you click on your IMDb page, you get the ad for, the first thing I see is that with this like creepy deer antlers on the wall, and then that creepy kid disappears. And couldn't even really watch the ad. But I wanted to ask you about making a horror film. Now I hear you played a werewolf. Is horror a thing that you enjoy?
I love horror. That's my jam. I love low budget indie horror movies, and I haven't seen Long Legs yet. I'm going to go and see that at some point this week. I hear it's very good, but yeah, that's my thing. And we like making at Village. We like making horror, even though our first film was like a very gentle romantic comedy. We like to make horror. We made a movie called The Glenarma Tapes, which was released in the US not that long ago, and yeah, we have a slate of horror movies. We hope to do another one with the director of Mandrake, Lynn Davison. We hope to do another movie with her that we have in development at the minute. So yeah, we like horror movies. The scarier, the better. And my own little movie, Dead Man's Money, is like a neo horror. It starts out as a sort of dark comedy set in an Irish bar, but then it soon turns murderous, and it turns into a bit of a ghost story. And there's it's kind of like kind of like Banshees of Inisherin meets Macbeth. That's what a couple of people have said it's like. So I'm happy enough with that comparison.
Oh, that sounds cool. That kind of horror is more up my alley. It's the witches and the demons that I'm not, you know.
Oh yeah.
My Irish Catholic school might have like put the fear of that into me.
Yeah, same here. It sent me the other way. It was like, okay, at one point I have to rebel and dive into this. I've had enough priests and nuns.
Yeah. Well, it looks like I don't see any more new questions in the chat room, so we are going to go and sign off. Paul, on behalf of Karen, unless she wants to say something too, thank you so much for being with us. And, you know, if you would like to come back, we would like to have you come back after the series is ended. If you'd like to come back, just you know, let us know.
Anytime.
We'd love to have you.
Anytime. It's been a pleasure.
And chances are ARC 54 will find more things that you've done that she can ask questions about. She does it to all of our guests, just so you know. She is wonderful.
Good.
She is wonderful.
Well, thank you, ARC 54. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I said, Karen, did you have any last things or no?
No,
okay?
I just want to say thank you. I look forward to watching you on my television tonight and for the rest of the season. And
I enjoy the final 2 episodes. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, guys. And I'd love to come back.
Yeah, well, that's great. So on behalf of everyone at NDB Media and Talented Universe, thank you everyone for coming. And we've got a lot going on in our schedule. Please look at our webpage, ndbmedia.net, for the coming guests that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. We've got a whole bunch. So everyone take care, and we will see. There goes my hand. We'll see you again later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.